So you've just spent hundreds of dollars getting all these Apple Homekit accessories, and the novelty of turning off your lights using your smartphone has worn off. What do you do next? Now it's time to start using those accessories for home automations. And it's these automations where you'll get the most out of your home, in my opinion. Now, unlike other smart home platforms, you don't need to download a skill or use third-party apps in order to automate Apple Homekit devices. Everything happens in your home app under automations. Now, if you're wondering how to set up HomeKit, do check out that video. But basically, an Apple Home automation is a command that will either trigger at a certain time of day, trigger when an accessory is controlled, trigger when a sensor detects something, and trigger when your location changes. Basically, Apple Home automations are the equivalent to the IFTTT for similar non-Apple HomeKit accessories, with one difference. Apple HomeKit automations are incredibly easy to set up, and because it's right there in the Apple Home app, you don't have to dick with anything. Sorry for using that word, but that's just the way I feel about it. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to go through the different types of automations as well as give you examples of when and how I've been using them. Number one, trigger at a specific time. And this one is actually very easy. Basically, this automation will turn the connected smart accessory on or off at a specific time. And you can even base it on sunrise and sunset. Now, I've been using this type of automation with my smart plugs in my living room and office areas to reduce the amount of phantom power used by my TVs, monitors, printers, and computers when I'm asleep. Specifically, I have everything turned off by 12:30 at night because, well, I'm sleeping and no one's using my TV or my monitors, and then I'll have everything turned on during sunrise. I actually just leave the TV off and the office comes on during sunrise. The second type of automation triggers when an accessory is controlled. Now, this automation basically connects two accessories together. It's saying that if A turns on, then B happens. So with this Eve door sensor, every time it opens, I can have it trigger one of my Nanoleaf Ivy lights, smart Ivy lights, to turn on. This is helpful for those who don't like walking into dark homes at night or just need an alert that somebody is home. Or you could put it on something like the pantry door to alert you every single time somebody's in there gorging their face. That would be useful for my mother when I was a child, or not child, a teenager, who was constantly eating his face off. Aaron, put the bag of chips down! The third automation deals when a sensor detects something. Now, as of right now, there aren't too many HomeKit accessories that have sensors built right into them. I've personally used the iHome sensor and the D-Link Omna for sensor automation, and it's not the best. It's not terribly accurate, especially with the Omna. In a perfect world, you can have your Omna pointed into your living room, and you can select the front door area, and the moment that the Omna detects activity, it can trigger something like your smart lights to go on. Now, I've tried this with the Omna. It's quite flaky and it works about 50% of the time with the Omna. My lights would sometimes even come on without anybody like walking in front of the Omna. It just would sometimes just trigger. If you want something a little more reliable, I don't think I have the box for it. You can use, but you can kind of see it. You can see the Omna, and right in front of it, there's this tiny white box. That's the Eve motion sensor, and that thing is bang on when it comes to detecting motion. So you can have a automation that triggers off of the Eve motion sensor going off, and having like your main room with your Casada lights turn on completely, or in your basement or your office turn on. So that's how you use the third automation. Now, the fourth automation deals with when your location changes, and I love this automation. This is the coolest one to date because, mostly because my background is in geomatics engineering, which is just all about locations. If you have the right Apple Home setup, you can have your smart home appliances or devices turn on and off based on your location. This is very handy for larger appliances like fans, heaters, and dehumidifiers. Since I'm making this video in the spring/summer, the basement office where I do all my writing and editing for these reviews gets incredibly humid, which is why I have a dehumidifier to reduce the humidity so that everything doesn't feel like, well, wet paper. But the problem I have is that this device is loud and it's very hard to work when it's on, so I'll turn it off, but then I'll forget to turn it on again when I leave to go do whatever I need to do. So this location thing solves that problem because the moment I leave the house, the dehumidifier turns on, and when I arrive, it turns off. And then you add a number one automation, turn on at this time and turn off at this time. I basically have the dehumidifier working whenever I'm not around it, which is awesome. It takes that, it's a simple thing, but it's something that I constantly forget, so I constantly get annoyed, and then my wife gets annoyed with me because it's just so damp downstairs that automation just removes that problem completely. So it's super cool. Another very simple use is to have everything locked down and turn off the moment that you leave your house. And stuff like that is just It's hard to believe that it's taken this long for the technology to get to this point. But now that it's here, it's awesome. And again, I can do this straight out of the box with Apple Home. In fact, I don't even have to download any of the other manufacturers' apps if I didn't want to. This is something I can't say if I was to try to do all this with the Amazon Alexa compatible devices or plugs. So that's all I have for this introduction to Apple Home automations. If you have any questions or you have some automations you want to share with me, leave them in the comments section below. Do check out my website, as I've got a ton of helpful information regarding getting started with your smart home. It's pretty daunting. It took me about a week to get my head around everything. So do check that out if you're planning on getting some smart home devices. That's kind of all I got. Thank you for watching.